In 2022, a crack Spurg unit was sent to sensory-friendly prison by the court of public opinion for a crime they probably did. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security gay baby jail to the podcasting underground. Today, still wanted by Autism Speaks, they survive as gamers of fortune. If you have a problem, if someone else can help but doesn't want to, and with the right bribe, maybe you can hire the Autismo team. Hello and welcome to the Team Autismo podcast. We are on the spectrum and on the air. How about that intro song, huh? Put it together myself with the help of a very cool dude and friend of mine named Ross Hayes. Big shout out to him. He helped out without me even asking, and it sounds amazing for it. Follow him on Twitter and twitch.tv at Hayes for Sheriff, HAYESFOR Sheriff. You'll be glad you did. Anyways, on this podcast, a panel of non-experts will give an insider perspective on issues regarding mental health, in particular the autism spectrum. Also, we will be going off on tangents about random subjects because, well, we all have autism. Though we will be avoiding divisive subjects such as politics and religion, except where they intersect with our main focus of mental health advocacy and education. Now I think introductions are in order. I am Bancho Mike, aka Michael Bell. I am a failed Twitch streamer, an autism advocate, and the founder of Team Autismo. I am solely responsible for our shoestring budget. We have a subscribe star. I recently switched from doing full-time work in IT to be a part-time worker at a pizza place in order to have more time to work on this project. But instead, I end up wasting a majority of my free time on video games. We will be discussing job-related stuff in episode 2, so be sure to come back for that. I was diagnosed with autism back in 1994 when it was still relatively misunderstood here in the States. Original diagnosis was Asperger's, but that's kind of been rolled into the whole autism spectrum thing now. And I am an extremely attractive male in my 30s and currently reside in North Carolina. Now I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, my name is Daniel. My parents always suspected I had autism, but due to the stigma attached to it in the late 80s, I wasn't officially diagnosed until my mid-20s. I don't currently work and need it up. I play a lot of video games and like to work on model airplanes or Gunpla, that's Japanese robots. And I'm also a failed Twitch streamer, much like Mike. I was drawn to this podcast because A, I have autism, and B, I knew Mike beforehand from an autism support group I used to go to, and he seemed like a cool enough dude to work with. I like the idea of a podcast aimed toward older people on the spectrum because currently most stuff is really aimed for kids or teenagers. And I also thought the idea of working on an autism podcast sounded really fun.
Hi there, I'm Lyric, I'm from the UK, and in my spare time I like the classic introvert activities of reading books and playing video games. I'm here because Mike needed an expert with real life experience. Of course, they were all busy, so he got me instead. But in all seriousness, I was diagnosed back in 2012, and really I haven't seen anything from it other than just the general pitfalls that having autism brings into your life. So what I'd like to get from being here is if I can help others get support, like proper support, just by doing this, I see that as a win.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
It is what we're here for.
Hello, I am SensorBot. I am a hyper-advanced AI with a theoretical brain the size of Wisconsin. When the hosts say naughty words, I replace them with more socially acceptable words so that they can put the podcast on as many platforms as possible. My hobbies include hacking websites to delete naughty things and stapling fig leaves to historic artwork.
Now that the audience has heard our life stories, I'd like to move on to the topic for our premiere podcast pilot episode. What is autism? First of all, autistic people are about 42% cooler than other people. This is established by the scientific community. But let's see what the experts have to say. According to the Autism Society, autism is a complex, lifelong developmental disability that typically appears during early childhood and can impact a person's social skills, communication, relationships, and self-regulation. Autism is defined by a certain set of behaviors and is a spectrum condition that affects people differently and to varying degrees. Now, I think that's a great summary, but I think we can discuss where it's a bit more complicated than that, especially with that spectrum condition part. Like, people with autism, a lot of us have a lot of similarities, but at the same time, a lot of differences. We're not, you meet one autistic person, they're not going to have the exact same issues and struggles and strengths that other autistic people are going to have.
Yeah, the category is a spectrum disorder, I think, is like purposefully vague, just because there's so many different variations you can have on the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be like going down to the paint section at your local DIY shop and asking for blue. Okay, what shade of blue?
Yeah, exactly. And, it varies, like, to a really wide degree. Like, I know some autistic people that can't talk at all. They don't communicate. Yeah. And then there's people like us, which have slight issues communicating, but for the most part, we can get across what we want and, communicate with other people. Yeah. What are you wanting to say about it, Dan?
Oh, yeah, well, I definitely, I agree with you on everything you say. When I think of autism, I just think back to how my, especially like during my childhood, I had lots of like sensory issues, and of course I would get really obsessed with certain stuff like insects and airplanes, but it wasn't just like being really into a certain thing that I guess was against the norm. It was just I had lots of sensory problems too. Like I was very sensitive to certain noises and textures, like textures of foods. I couldn't eat certain things, and some of that kind of got better as I got older, but in some ways I feel like it's gotten a bit more acute. But
yeah. I'm very much the same way.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, textures and stuff were a bigger issue. They're still an issue. Like, I hate the texture of paper.
Oh, me too, yeah. I hate that rough. What I hate is when someone is turning a page of a book, and it's like when they run their index finger and thumb along the paper and make that sound. I can't stand that. That triggers me.
That made me shudder a little bit just thinking about it. And I really hate bamboo. Like the texture of bamboo. Like, we have some bamboo cooking utensils, and I can't use them because it's just too much.
Sucks.
Yeah. So I just go for the plastic ones usually.
Yeah.
And it's not just touch sensory, it's auditory, it's olfactory, it's gastronomical.
Definitely. I have some folks in my family that I can't be around too often because they're just loud talkers, and it's very overwhelming to my hearing.
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
Where are you about to say there?
It's also stuff like I don't know about you guys, but if I'm not expecting, if someone touches me and I'm not expecting it, I get an echo of that feeling.
Yeah.
I can feel that up to at least 3 hours, depending on how hard the impact, where the point of contact is made. Like, I remember a friend try to get my attention to say goodbye, pat me on the shoulder. I could still feel the impact site, the exact shape of their hand.
Yeah.
3 hours later.
Yeah.
It's like superhero stuff, but like completely useless.
Without the cool factor.
Yeah.
I feel like that that exemplifies autism to a pretty scary degree, because our senses are typically very acute, but unless you're like doing music theory or something, it's not useful.
Yeah, I think from a personal perspective, as much of a sort of downer thing as it's going to sound, autism, for me at least, is a massive pain in the ass.
Missing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to treat me differently, but I have to accept that there are certain things I will need to inform people that they will need to treat me differently. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of introspection lately regarding that sort of stuff. I'm going to start looking into getting on disability and stuff. And my current job, I've told them I don't want to work more than 12 hours. I like my pride is
Messing.
with me on that because I'm like, no, I want to work 40 hours or more, and I want to be the best there is at everything. But I'm as I get older, I got less of that invincible mentality. Yeah.
You have to do what you have to do to survive, basically.
But yeah, sensory issues are a big thing.
Not wanting to be treated differently, but accepting that you're going to have to be treated differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one thing I've really noticed interacting with a lot of different autistic people and hearing their stories and things they've done and haven't done, a big issue is trust. Like, how do I put this? So some of us are will trust strangers like way too easily. And that gets us in a lot of trouble. Like, I know this one guy, anytime some dude comes up to him on the street and says, give me money, he just gives them money. He doesn't think like, oh, I shouldn't do that because it's enabling whatever, or I don't have to, I have no obligation to give this random person money. He just does it because it's what he's been asked to do, and it's...
Yeah, there's no filter assuming this person is distrustful and trying to shake them down.
Yeah. And I've run into a lot of issues in my own life with that. Like, the concept of taking advantage of somebody else is just so foreign to me.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the case for a lot of autistic people too.
Yeah,
we're very logical.
Yeah, I think because that it makes them easier to take advantage of too, probably for neurotypical people, maybe even other autistic people.
Definitely.
See, again, this comes back to the idea of the spectrum and how people are different, because I developed differently. I didn't have the roughest childhood, but I didn't particularly have the most stable, and some of the people I hung around with, they would take advantage of you in a second. And it wasn't something that you'd, or at least I would, immediately catch on to. It's something I had to consciously keep an eye out for. So while you have people that are somehow too trusting, it doesn't register to them that they're going to be exploited. You get the other side of it where you don't trust anyone because you're expecting that sort of behavior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, autism is a very black and white thinking kind of deal. I've worked really hard to get more gray areas in my life, and a lot of things I'm very much on the fence about.
It's a struggle.
It is, because you're like, it's either this or that, and there's no in between, but you gotta kind of adjust your thinking.
Yeah, life has more nuance, but it's something I struggle with too. Very black and white thinking.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I was just thinking about now, I can't remember.
Can you remember now?
No. Maybe
that's rough, buddy.
Maybe that's another problem. Memory issues. I don't know if that's like specifically an autism thing. I feel like most people I've talked to with autism have memory issues.
So, from what I've read, it's not so much that people with autism have memory issues, it's that due to the fact that we can be easily distracted, you don't have that same level of retention for memory. It's consequential rather than a direct symptom.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's definitely
this
the case.
happens because of this. It's not in the portfolio itself.
Yeah, I'm certainly very, very easily distracted. I'll be in the middle of a conversation and then something happens and I'll completely lose my train of thought.
Yeah.
Or I'll be going to like the fridge to get something, and by the time I get there, I've forgotten what I was going to do because I had other stuff pop into my head.
Speaking of distractions, I need to recess for about 3 minutes. My parents just got here, and I need to bring some groceries in.
Okay.
Is that
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Yeah, let
It's
me
no problem.
pause here.
This is where I put it.
Episode sponsor.
If I had one.
Yeah, another thing with autism is we get really attached really easily. And that's not just with people, that's with objects and stuff. Like, I've got a glass that it's a basic,
Simple.
like $1 Walmart Stein, and if something happened to it, I would be absolutely mortified and probably cry for the rest of the day. But like, I could get another one for $1. Like, it's...
I totally know that feeling.
Yeah, I've got a Mr. Meeseeks pint glass, and when I'm at home, I basically refuse to use anything else. Clean it regularly, and make sure that I clean it so much that the
Stinking.
decal is mostly washed away. But it's just...
It's almost like
It's-
objects have their own personality too. That's how it is for me.
Yeah. I always feel guilty even throwing stuff away. Like, I imagine it saying, "No, don't do that." What is this? Ah.
But yeah, it's not just people, not just objects, it's people as well. Like, sometimes, we were talking about trust earlier, sometimes it's really hard to get us to really deeply trust somebody, but from what I've experienced, from my own experience and from, dealing with other autistic people, is if you've made an autistic friend, you've got a friend for life. We don't let go. Generally.
Usually it's something that the other person does
Yep.
that ends it.
Yep. Or, in my case, it's deleting Facebook. I put a message up, hey, if anyone wants to talk, I'm deleting my Facebook. Message me. It gets deleted in 3 days. I'll give you my number if I want to talk to you. And no one replied, so I was like, okay. Facebook is dead.
I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
I hate Facebook. I guess the only people I still have on Facebook are like a couple of family members, but they don't use Discord or anything, so I have to.
Honestly, the only thing I have Facebook for anymore is the memes.
That's what I use Twitter for. You also have to have Facebook for your Quest.
I don't have Twitter purely because I can't be bothered to lose any more faith in humanity than I already have.
It's pretty good at that. Actually, it's very good at that. Best place to do it if you ever want to do that.
Apparently, one of the latest hashtags to trends is #MenoGross. Yes, please tell me how you're going to generalize an entire sex because of a few bad experiences you've had with select people.
Generalize half the human population just about. Okay, sure. So, I guess we could switch subjects here. One thing I wanted to talk about, one thing that's always bothered me when it comes to autism and stuff, is how when you look up autism and help with it and coping mechanisms and how you can get employment, it's always 99% of the stuff out there is for children. Like,
Yes.
is your kid on the autism spectrum? Here's some programs you can enroll them in, after school stuff, and then once you graduate high school, it's like, get
Lost.
good luck.
Yeah, they expect you to like suddenly be completely functional and normal.
And that
It's
definitely doesn't
never
happen.
gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it sucks to be you then.
Yeah. And there's, even if you do go through those programs as a kid and stuff, there's some very good ones out there. They can prepare you in a lot of ways and help you learn coping mechanisms and skills and social skills and blah blah blah. But it's not really enough, because you have to experience stuff yourself too. And
Yeah.
going to your first job interviews, like, it's like talking to an alien, I think, or someone who doesn't speak your language. That's kind of a lot of social interactions for autistic people. What you're saying makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and
Everyday
even then,
life.
it's a roulette on whether or not the quote-unquote help you get during your child years is even worth it. Like, my middle school abjectly refused to admit that I had autism.
Gosh.
Would not accept anything to the contrary, that they thought that I was just a lazy, worthless child.
That's another problem. This stigma with autism is that we're lazy, but I kind of feel like it's the opposite. We've got way too much going up in our head to bother with your
Stuff.
or whatever you got going on.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to do this? I've already got 500 things going on up here. I don't need more. I'm doing my thing right now. And like today at work, I think this is actually the second time it's happened. One of the girls that works there, she's super sweet and nice, and she always says hi to me. But like every time, I don't realize she's talking to me because I'm doing something else. I'm on my way to do something, and I'm like laser focused on that one thing. And then I hear her, but it doesn't register in my brain. And then I like walk 5 steps and go, wait a second, I think she was just talking to me. And I'll walk back. I was like, you talking to me?
Oh,
She went, yeah, hi. I'll go, oh, hi, sorry. I'm up in my head. I've explained to pretty much everyone there I'm autistic and
Yeah.
whatever, and everyone's been very supportive, which is
Well,
really cool.
that's good.
Yeah. I'm
At
not
least they
used to
don't
that.
like. At least they don't laugh at you and say, "Ha ha ha! What's that?"
What are those?
I really want to get a mask that says, please be patient, I have autism, for when I'm on, register. So people don't try to rush me. Because when I get rushed, that's when
Stuff.
it goes down. That's when there's a problem.
When they Zerg rush you.
I can't play against Zerg. But yeah, there's more and more stuff for adults with autism. That's kind of what spurred me on to try to start this whole thing. The 3 of us are adults, and we can share our experiences. And at some point, I want to start more things with the Team Autismo brand that'll help specifically adults on the spectrum and with other various mental illnesses.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. It's going to be a while, but hopefully I can get that going someday.
Yeah.
Just because there's not a lot out there, and I want to do it online so I can reach the maximum number of people. Right now, a lot of the programs are like local programs. So like here we've got Teach and Spark. They're mostly just, Teach especially mostly just helps people in the community that they're in. People will move from all over the world to come here and get assistance from them, but it's not really widespread.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try and hope we can, through the magic of the internets.
The interwebs.
Also,
This series of tubes.
I found that, at least on a personal level in the area I live in, the few adult support groups that specialize in autism, they seem to have this preconception that you're going to be low functioning
Mm-hmm.
or more outwardly childlike.
Mm-hmm.
They're not prepared for people that can actually string words together consistently. The few times I've looked into it, the person that's reviewing me is just so
Gosh darn.
patronizing.
Gosh.
No, I'm a functioning adult. I understand what you're saying. You don't have to talk like that.
Oh my god, that irritates me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like, okay, so how does that make you feel? And what kind of days would be good for you? No, please just talk to me like I'm a human. Please don't talk down to me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's kind of one thing I want to do with this podcast is to really humanize people with autism and people with mental illnesses in general, because when you see past like all our faults and stuff, there's a person there. And my roommate, she works with people with autism. I kind of got her into wanting doing that because she's known me for so long. And she loves her clients so much, like they're friends for her almost, because she sees them as people and not, and she sees it all the time, like in their workplaces. People don't
past the condition.
Yeah, people don't even like think of them in a way, like they just kind of get ignored, and I think that's sad because personally, I really like people that are different. And I don't know of a better way to say that. People that have different manners of speaking, people that have different manners of thinking, people that look different.
Eccentricities.
Eccentricities, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I tend to be gravitated towards people like that. And, the more normal and mundane a person is, the less I'm going to like them. I genuinely don't.
You gravitate towards the atypical.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it kind of boggles my mind how, I'm autistic, so obviously the way I think is the way I expect everyone else to think. I think that's a hard thing to get past with autism is the way you see the world, and then you talk to someone else and they don't see it the same way, and you're like, no.
Wait, how do you not see it like this?
Exactly.
How are you? Who said you could have a differing opinion from me?
And so it's always...
It's obviously not that extreme, but is a case of sort of, wait, this is clearly the optimal way to do it. Why aren't you doing it this way?
Yeah, very logical black and white thinking. That's why I wanted to work with computers for so long, because they're, very logical, and I think a lot like computers do. I used to do some programming when I was in high school and a little bit in college, but never ended up pursuing that. But that's why people think, autistic people are really good with computers, which is not always the case. Well, it is the case a lot of the time. But when you're actually working in IT, there's a really big human aspect to it. And that's where I personally had issues.
Wait, you're telling me I have to talk to people?
Yeah. I can't just sit at my desk and take laptops apart. Are you sure? Because I can do that. I'm really good at it. I can put them back together, too. And they'll work.
Sometimes.
They usually work.
Sometimes. Depends on how hard I hit it with the hammer.
The hammering part is essential.
Wait, what do you mean you're not supposed to use a hammer?
Have I been doing it wrong?
Not supposed to use this drill?
This is my laptop drill. This is my
There are many
CPU
like
drill.
it, but this is my one.
Yeah.
Oh god, what movie is... That's Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very good movie.
Haven't seen it in forever.
Same. It's a very disturbing movie it points to.
I like Apocalypse Now more for my Vietnam movie, but Full Metal Jacket's good.
So yeah,
Seeing as it's past tense, surely it would be Apocalypse then.
Yeah.
failed opportunity. But yeah, we were just kind of making jokes about autism, so this is a good segue into something that I feel is pretty contentious. I've seen some arguments about it on the interwebs, and so I kind of want to discuss it here, and that's humor as a coping mechanism, specifically self-deprecating humor. When I think about this, there are two guys that come to mind immediately, and they are awesome. If you don't follow them on YouTube or Twitter or wherever, you really ought to. They're hilarious. That's Donovan Crip Daddy and Ricky Berwick. They exemplify this to
Ricky Berwick is a genius.
He's a mad genius, and I love the
Stuff in.
shit out of him, like really. And it's if an outside, I can see how an outsider would look at their style of humor and what they do, and kind of be disgusted with it. I guess, like, how can you talk about yourself like that? That's wrong or whatever. But honestly, it's for me, it's liberating. Like, I've been thinking about how I want to explain it, but it's really hard to explain unless you've actually tried it for yourself. And
I'll give it a go.
yeah, go for it.
If you take yourself so seriously that you can't laugh at yourself, your flaws, your own eccentricities, the cracks and the gaps, as it were, you then end up putting yourself on a pedestal. If you then can't laugh at that because of this, you then react negatively to when people laugh at it from the outside. Even if it's in good humour, even if it's good-natured, just among friends. It makes you more sensitive to the outside world, and you can't function when you have idealized yourself so much that you can't laugh at yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of a self-esteem booster in this strange way of being able to make fun of yourself and laugh at yourself. Like, you were talking about outside perspective laughing at us, and, I thought about my roommate again. Her clients, they do some really weird, wacky stuff, and she just gets a kick out of it. And she's not, like, laughing at them like, oh, look at this moron. It's like, this is an eccentricity that he has, and I find it humorous. I enjoy the way he does this thing. Like, she has a client that has a very odd manner of speaking. He talks like a game show announcer. Like, everything he says is like, and now we are going to do this, and on to you, stuff like that.
And on to you with the next question.
Yeah, exactly, like that. And, she gets a kick out of it because it's a silly way to talk, in all honesty. But it's not saying, oh, you're a moron for this. It's like, well, I find this humorous. And, back to Ricky and Donovan, they do this, they're perfect at it. And I guess since this is a audio production, both Ricky and Donovan are severely handicapped physically. Ricky has some sort of bone disorder, so I think it's something like he can't extend his limbs all the way. So he can't walk normally. He crawls around everywhere. He's got
obviously called severe muscular atrophy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, very bad. And he's got like a misshapen torso. But just thinking about the stuff he says just cracks me up. Like, probably one of my favorite videos is it's just like a 10-second video. And there's this pregnant lady dancing around with her boyfriend or husband or whatever. And then it does like a cutaway to inside her womb, and instead of a fetus, it's Ricky's face. It's like, hey, what the heck are you doing? What are you doing? I'm gonna come out like a
differently able individual. Peace.
So, see, self-deprecating humor can go one of two ways. It can either be, you can either take it to the extreme where it's almost like you're preemptively putting yourself down, which is, I think, where a lot of the contention can come from.
There's an art to it.
Yeah, you're mocking yourself not because you don't take yourself seriously, but because you see yourself as not deserving of respect. But there's also the other end of it, the other extreme, what Ricky Berwick does. He owns it. He's accepted that this is his life, this is his situation, and instead of letting it eat away at his soul, he's gone, nah, I'll make the best of it.
I'm gonna make some money off of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Become a YouTube comedian.
I would hazard to think that Mr. Berwick probably isn't the happiest person in existence,
Probably
but the
not.
fact that he is able to make the best of his situation shows a level of drive and
Maturity
fortitude.
to me. Yeah.
A level of drive and fortitude which people outside of his situation would just simply lack.
Yep.
In a way, his disability has in fact made him a better person.
Yep. And definitely, if you're listening to this podcast after, go check out Ricky. A lot of his stuff is pretty off color. So if you're easily offended, maybe not. But
If you're easily offended, why
In the world.
are you listening to this?
like he's genuinely funny, and it's not just because of the
Differently abled individual.
jokes. Some of the stuff he comes up with is like that's brilliant. That is a brilliant mind coming up with this joke. No.
Well, it sort of branches out after that, because there's only so many
Differently abled individual.
jokes you can make before the gimmick wears thin.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to think outside the box. You need to have different material. And while self-deprecating
Differently abled individual.
jokes were his in to the comedy scene, the fact that he is actually able to make more shows that he does have that commitment to what he's doing.
Yep. And the same with Donovan. I don't know if y'all have checked him out, but he's opened.
Can't say that I have.
I haven't either.
He's really funny. I'll have to send y'all some videos later. But his humor is really dark, and he's like, I don't
Bring
know
a
his
flashlight.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely want a flashlight if you start watching his stuff. But I don't know his exact condition, but he's like paralyzed from the neck down pretty much, and he's in a wheelchair. And the only thing I've ever seen him move is like his mouth and eyes. So he got dealt a pretty
Suboptimal.
hand, but he makes the most of it, both by kind of making fun of his condition, but also just he developed a really dark, sarcastic sense of humor as kind of a way to cope with that. And some of his favorite videos that he does are when he's talking with his mom, and they're like just tearing each other up. And he comes up with like some really messed up comebacks, and it's hilarious to me. He also has one really serious video that kind of talks about what we're talking about now, about when you're dealt a garbage hand by life, you just play it, play your hand to the best of your ability. And I really love that video. I'm gonna have to find it again. So yeah.
I suppose using the card analogy, you can either bluff and exploit that people don't know the situation that you're covering up. You can play your hand and just let it roll, or you can hit until it recovers.
Or you can just fold.
Or you can fold.
Well, I was kind of thinking of it like just like giving up on yourself. Not necessarily the final end of all, but like just saying, this is all. I can't possibly do any better.
Even then, it works in both scenarios. Like, if you give up on yourself, the chances of you ever coming back from that are next to zero.
Yeah.
And then if you top yourself, well, you're guaranteed to back from that.
Wait, what are we talking about now?
We were talking about using gambling, poker as an analogy for life.
Yeah, and I think bluff is a big thing that a lot of autistic people do. I'm trying to think of the specific term used in the autism community. It's like masking, I think is what it is. Where you
Masking is what I would use for it.
Isn't that what serial killers do?
I mean, it's what a lot of people do.
True.
Right.
This is where you pretend to be more competent than you are at something.
Oh,
You
okay.
project a different outward personality to the inner personality that you hold true to yourself.
I feel like that gets us in trouble more often than not, because then, people start digging deeper and they're like, oh, you
I find
really
it
have
gives me
trouble socializing.
I feel it tends to give me massive
Freaking.
headaches.
Yeah, I mean, it takes effort.
Like, the strain it puts on my mind to act like a different person for the sake of other people.
Yeah.
It can be anything as simple as just holding your tongue so you're not telling every person you walk by to go.
Fly a kite.
Or it can be as complex as completely changing your demeanor from what you actually are experiencing.
Like intentionally trying to smile all the time, because I've noticed with a lot of autistic people, we have very dour demeanors facially and vocally. The three of us, we don't really emote a whole lot, and that takes a concerted effort to do.
I don't suppose it's not so much that we don't emote; it's that the subtle nuance of our emoting is harder to pick up on if you don't know what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like for most people, I can completely hide all my emotions no matter what. But my roommate, she's known me 15-ish years. She looks me in the eye and she knows exactly what I'm feeling, and I'm like, that's kind of weird, but she gets it. But most people, I'll have like a horrible day and really hate myself and all that stuff, and no one will notice unless I actually say something, because I don't express it outwardly that well, and that's a big thing with autism, expressing emotionally.
Yeah.
Outwardly, anyways. Like, we definitely feel the emotions, but sometimes I feel stronger than a lot of people. But actually getting it out there and showing others is a big struggle.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's
I
the
feel like
thing. Yeah, go ahead.
it's about projecting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can project any level of emotion that you feel the need, but if people aren't receptive to that, then it's going to amount to squat. I've actually taken to experimenting when I'm in a sour mood, purposely projecting that I'm in a sour mood and seeing how many people pick up on it.
Like, you really furrow your brows and frown as hard as you can and cross your arms, stomp around.
No, it's more like the 1,000-yard stare, the I'm going to kill you eyes.
Just kind of in general, like, part of this project is to humanize autism in particular, because a lot of people see that we're like robotic because we're not very good at expressing ourselves in general, like pretty much across the board.
Or when it does come to projecting, it's usually to the extremes.
Yeah, either to the extreme or completely incorrect. Like, there's some folks with autism that'll be, angry, and it'll make them want to cry instead of, shout or whatever. And I really want to emphasize to people that we definitely feel emotions. We're thinking people just like everyone else.
Sometimes thinking far too much. Most of the time thinking far too much,
definitely. Like I said earlier, I'll walk past somebody that says hi to me, and I won't realize for a little while that they were trying to say hi to me because I'm already up in my head thinking about stuff.
Basically slowpoke.
Yeah. Amazing psychic powers that are unable to be unleashed.
All you have to do is use amnesia and nothing can do damage to you anyway. We're talking like Gen 1. What was it, amnesia? Did that just boost special? Wait, that's
Special
right.
defense.
Special wasn't split. So just use amnesia and you can kill everything and nothing can kill you. Just
Yeah, that'd be
forget-
a slow bro, not a slow poke.
Oh. Oh.
Ain't no way you're taking on the Elite Four with a slow poke.
I
think-
bet some people have done it with Caterpie.
Yeah, and also those people love torturing themselves for money.
I think Dan's a slow bro.
So,
Yep,
The
I think
slow
I'm right.
king.
Slow king.
uh,
You dropped this king.
Slow.
no, I'm slow, bro. It's me. I'm too lazy to stand upright like Slow King. Screw that.
Slowbro stands up, right?
No, it depends on the sprite.
Some do. Some
Slowbro's
don't.
Slowbro's always been standing upright.
I,
Slowpoke is
Wait, let me look this up on Smogon. Let me look up his old sprite.
Shit.
you not Slowpoke has always been upright.
Slowpoke, we're talking about Slowbro.
Slowbro even, sorry. Slowbro has always been like on his hind leg.
Let me see. Why the heck can't I find the? Oh, you're right. Nah, I'm wrong. You're right.
Of course I'm right.
Darn it.
Of course I'm right. I'm British.
Exactly. How dare you doubt me?
I'm British.
Damn Yankee.
Fatherless person.
Bloody Yanks. Yeah,
I'm definitely-
Slowbro has always either been standing up on his hind legs or sitting down.
Well, the Gen 1 sprite is sitting down, so that's the only one that counts.
No, it isn't. And there's
It's the original.
3 Gen 1 sprites.
Yeah, what about like
I know,
the
red,
original,
blue,
original?
yellow.
The original janky looking ones.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
looking
one
at
where
the
he's
janky looking ones.
there's one where he's standing up straight. There's one where he's sat down and he's got his tail between his legs. And there's one where he's leaning over, but he's still standing. Like,
My favorite sprite for him is Gen 5 sprite.
or where he's standing upright and he's just like, eh.
Yeah, just Gen 5 sprites are so good in my opinion.
Except the overworld sprites, they sucked.
Yeah.
Definitely keeping the slow bro conversation in.
You should.
It's
Mostly
another one-
because it proves that I'm right.
Yeah. Also, it's a very humanizing thing, I think.
And it proves points made earlier in the episode that tangentializing is rather common.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
We're a
When I
train
have-
with no brakes.
when I have conversations with my mother, we'll rattle through a dozen or so different topics within the same period of time, moving back and forth between topics as if the conversation on that one never stopped.
Yep.
And people will look on like, how
In the world.
are you doing this? I think it's just the way that she adapted to the way that I think, and sort of reciprocates in that manner.
I think a good way to explain our thinking is like a run-on sentence. It's just one thing runs into another, and there's no period at the end. It just keeps going and just keeps going and rams on into each other.
Well, how about you have 3 albums on a playlist, but you've got them on shuffle.
Yep. I think that's a good one too.
Oh no, you've got 3 audiobooks on a playlist, but they're on shuffle.
They shuffle by
How about
chapter, I guess.
I have
They
a
shuffle
better
by
idea. I have a better idea. How about you have audiobook and an album mixed on the same folder, and you have them all shuffle. So randomly, you'll get like a chapter from some Warhammer book, and then it goes to a Judas Priest album.
That's I think that's very much accurate. Because with audiobooks, it's like, well, it's the same medium, but
Yeah.
like it's a prosaic thing. Whereas, personally, with my thinking, I'm not always thinking words. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's music or sounds, and sometimes it's just one
Single.
word that's stuck in my head that I can't stop thinking. And I know if I say it out loud, it's just gonna get it stuck harder. So I can keep it up in there. That's another thing. I feel like there's a level of Tourette's that's inherent with autism. I think me and Lyric were talking about this the other day,
Yeah.
where things just pop in your head. Like from what I've read and heard from people with Tourette's is things pop in your head and then there's this intense urge to act it out or speak it out or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Projector.
Yeah, and it's not always intentional. Like it just blurt out. Like another one of my roommate's clients, he gets in trouble a lot because he just blurts out what he's thinking, and it's typically not appropriate for work, which is where she sees him. And she has to tell him, is this something appropriate for work? Do we need to get back on track here? And I just keep thinking about that story Lyric told one time where what was it? You were talking to this girl about her mom or something, and the only word you could think of was chesty, and then it just blurted out. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yes. Yes, I do remember.
You want to tell the better version of that story? Because I don't remember.
That's it sparked the memory in my head. Yeah, so we had to take this patient down for an X-ray, and the daughter of this woman was her carer. And so the daughter was like early to mid-30s, and she had an impressive bust that was on show, as it were.
Yeah.
Hard
Now,
to
for
miss.
whatever this woman was in for was something respiratory related, and as is common courtesy when you've got a visitor or a family member that's going down for the scan with them, you talk, keep
Keep their mind busy,
yeah,
occupied.
and let's see, she was talking about how her mother had been feeling ill lately, and how she was having trouble breathing, and she was trying to think of a word that, yeah, she's been quite, and the first thing I just went, chesty. And I thought to myself, no!
But it popped out anyways.
Yeah,
What happened?
thankfully, she either didn't pick up on it, or she chose to let it go.
That's the
Because
best way
she
to
just
do
said, yes, and then continued on. I was like, did I dodge a bullet? Did she catch on?
That's good stuff. I need to remember more stories at some point because I've got a billion of them. When I did there was an adult autism support group. We always did, started our meetings with an autism moment to kind of break the ice a little bit. And I always had a hard time thinking of them.
I remember that group.
Yeah. Hopefully that comes back to in person someday, but we'll see. So yeah, I think this is a good spot to close it out.
Not to talk about Bofa.
Bofa what?
Bofa D.
Good night, everybody. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to this crazy autistic experiment. More is on the way, and you can keep up with us at our website, www.teamautismo.com. Email, social links, and a link to our public Discord server are all there for you to find. And don't forget, you can support this podcast and get the uncensored version on our Subscribe Star, which you can find a link to on our website, www.teamautismo.com.